Well, the last speaker that we have today is Amber Turner. Amber started building her visionary and unique 7-step model of holistic law post-graduating in London as a barrister and acting solicitor. She practices law in Gibraltar and has since helped thousands of clients. Statistics of lawyer stress, anxiety, depression, insomnia, burnout, and suicidal ideation evidence that whilst lawyers serve in a justice system, ironically, their toxic work practices and environments are causing them and their clients harm. Clients' intergenerational cycles of self-sabotaging behavior triggered by unresolved trauma attracts and manifests legal issues and disputes largely not addressed in the adversarial legal process, which can also re-traumatize them. Amber started merging well-being tools drawn from ancient wisdom, Raja Yoga and the chakras, science, knowledge of the nervous system, and spirituality, interfaith divine teachings for the mind, emotions, body, and spirit into the lawyer-client relationship and process of case or dispute resolution. Reframing legal problems as a gift, an opportunity to heal, opens the door for both the lawyer and client to embark on a voyage of self-discovery, to find clarity, peace of mind, and healing in the ripple effect for their children and generations to come, co-creating a more perfect and divine justice for all. Please help me welcome Amber.
Thank you, Molly, for that lovely introduction. And I have to obviously honor Sylvia Kloot and her amazing team. And I mean, without her, none of us would be here. This conference wouldn't be possible. And I want to emphasize this. I did say this the other night, but for those who weren't here, this is an historic event. It's the first ever International Unitive Justice Conference, and it is an honor to be here amongst school and university educators, professors, law enforcement officers, social workers, psychologists, lawyers, social justice activists, judges, and even politicians. And also, before I start my presentation, I also want to acknowledge everyone in the room who've traveled from near and far. I'm so grateful to you, and also obviously everyone who's tuning in online from all over the world. And I know I have friends who are tuning in from the UK and Europe, Africa, Australia, Canada, and of course, other parts of the USA. And for some of you, it's early hours of the morning or halfway through the night, and you're here and you're present. Others will be listening, obviously, to the replay. So thank you for showing up, because as many of the speakers have emphasized, it's going to take the united efforts of all of you and all of us for unitive justice to become contagious. I was blessed to meet Sylvia a few years ago, and her backstory as a trial attorney resonated very, very strongly with me, especially when she shares that it became increasingly hard for her to show up in a courtroom. As I read her book, I basically was underlining almost all of the pages, and I would insert, well, she kind of gave up on courtroom in this year. I gave up in 2017. You know, Sylvia just started designing her model here. I started designing my model there. And the reason I bring this to your attention is because it is a testimony to the interconnectedness that we've also been speaking about. Because how does Amber Turner from the Rock of Gibraltar in the entrance to the Mediterranean awaken to this kind of law practice completely and totally on my own without having any knowledge of anyone else at that time until 2017 when I came across Kim Wright's book, design her own model of holistic justice. And then someone like Sylvia is a trial attorney in the USA on the other side of the world who's come up with her own model, which she started almost 4 decades ago. And so this is evidence also, I think, of the timing of the paradigm shift that we're all experiencing. Adversarial legal systems are designed, as we know, on win-lose outcomes. They're based on ego and they're fear-driven. And it's a status, it's a situation where we see people are battling against each other because they are still stuck in the illusion of separation. That separation, as Dr. Gabor Mate explains, causes more pain and more hurt and more disconnect. more disease, and that's why this world is getting sicker. Since I started out in 1999, I started almost intuitively designing this different way of practicing within the adversarial systems, within law firms that have pyramid structures. And I self-identified as a holistic lawyer. Over 2 decades, I have been practicing law, taking my duty of care to my clients very seriously. And I want to repeat that because many lawyers will speak about their duty of care, but not actually dwell on what care actually really means. My end goal is to see justice as peace for all involved in the legal process. I opened my own law firm in 2013 because at that juncture, I myself had suffered burnout in the profession and I was about to drop out of the legal profession. Then I thought, well, I was happy with what I was doing. I knew that the way I was operating with my clients was working and I was getting very positive responses. I was succeeding in the cases, but I was kind of drowning still in this toxic work environment and suffering burnout because of the competitiveness versus collaboration, the fear-based instead of the love-based environments where I was sitting for 60 hours a week. So over the years, I've drawn from my clients' stories, which they've shared with me very courageously in their vulnerability. And I've drawn from teachings in science, ancient wisdom, and spirituality. And what I do is I integrate those well-being tools into my daily practice of law. And I teach now law students and lawyers how this can be done. Because we can't just speak about well-being in the sense of, oh, it's good to have your 8 hours sleep. It's important to hydrate. Maybe we should do some morning meditation and journaling. But then we walk into a very toxic work environment, which I call the container, where well-being starts taking a dive. We spend at least maybe 8, 10, 12 hours a day immersed in this toxicity. And then at the end of the day, let's go and do a yoga class, right? So what happens with that is that we're looking at a spiking and then sort of like a straight line, if you can imagine, then we're spiking again, like our nervous systems are jumping all over the shop. So the answer for me was to say we need to find a way to integrate, which means, for instance, that before a court hearing, I would go to the ladies' toilets and sit on the toilet and literally do my breathing exercises. I know that maybe whoever was outside doing the lipstick was wondering what was going on in the cubicle, but I thought it's really important that I be present and I be mindful, and that if I'm feeling that stress and anxiety, that I bring my nervous system into a state of calm. So holistic law, it's more than just about a case. It's more than just about the lawyer. It's more than just about the client. It's also about the people who are affected. And we heard Molly speak so beautifully at the opening of the conference. She had this image up of all these interlacing circles with all the names of all the people in the ripple effect who are affected and impacted by any kind of legal problem. It literally reduced me to tears. I've been talking about the ripple effect for years, but that image really brought it home. And so it's also about reframing for the client. What can we do with what maybe has been the most traumatic life experience for them? Because let's get real, many of the clients who come to us because they've just suffered an event which has been to them one of the most traumatic life experiences. And how do we reframe that into saying to them, this could be your greatest gift? Because I started realizing that that's what it was. It was, in a sense, an opportunity for them to look inside and say, what is it in me that I need to look at? What is it in me? What is the underlying trauma that is running my life? What I say is that it's when the past is not yet history. It's in the driving seat. It's driving the self-sabotaging behavior of the present that's leading people to these conflicts and that's leading people to having these legal problems. So what I try and do as soon as I've established a close connection with my client is to offer them the opportunity to have a look at that and say to them, you know what we have in front of us right now, this legal problem is a gift. And if we look at not just resolving what's in front of us, but looking at this as only a manifestation of the root cause. If we can start digging deeper, this means that post solving your case or the dispute or the conflict, you can now design and we can co-create together this new pathway with new possibilities for your future and the future of your children. So I've been asked many times recently, in recent years, to teach how I do this. How does this actually look? What does it look like in practice? How does it work? And it's been a bit of a challenge for me, because what I was doing was kind of intuitive. But what I've managed to do is to create a 7-step program now, where I can break it down and kind of box it up so that it's relatable and so that it's teachable and learnable. So I'm delighted that in the video that follows, you will be hearing from me, but I felt it was really important that as a holistic lawyer, I brought into this room components of the holistic law process. And so you'll be hearing from my former client, Jeff Rhodes, my soul doctor, Nalini Harilela Shalaram, and family and systemic psychotherapist, Manuel Mora Fernandez. The last two belong to my client Wellbeing network. And these are the people, the healing professionals, 2 of them. I have many others on my website that we share. But they are 2 who will handhold the client and help them address their mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual needs, and bring that support not just during the time that we're resolving their case, but this is a relationship that continues even after the case is concluded. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy and get some value out of it, and I look forward to some questions at the end. Thank you.